We'll start with opening board comments. Mr. Forehand.
Do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Forehand. Mr. Black.
Yeah, just really quickly, I wanted to congratulate Mr. Thomas on the broadband committee on the grant and staff, everyone that worked on that grant. That is very good news, and I know that that Mr. Thomas and the committee will be working hard on getting the broadband access to the western side of the county as well, working on grant for that area. So I'm sure they'll be working hard with whatever entities are involved that can do it. So that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Seeley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one. I was given the sad news yesterday of Mr. Taft Coghill's passing. He was a deacon at Shiloh Baptist Church, longtime member, probably been there his whole life, and he will be sorely missed in the community. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Seeley.
I just wanted to add my thanks and gratitude, dear Lord, for the grant. That's a start. We still have plenty other options out there for other parts of the county, and I know the broadband committee's working on a couple of promising things. So just give thanks for what we've got coming, and looking forward to more for our citizens.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a few, if you don't mind. One is I need to, again, and I guess we can't do this enough, but thank the health department and the county staff that works with them doing the vaccination program. They've done an excellent job. I've stopped by there on several Mondays. And just so folks will know, occasionally they do have a opening or two because of cancellations. And they were nice enough to ask me last Monday if I knew anybody that could, and I asked a couple of people, and they sent a few seniors over. So that is a great thing. They've done a great job there. They're also doing one at Second Mount Zion. I'll let you take the role for that. And then I need to talk about the Vatti Grant. And of course, want to say congratulations to everyone. First of all, we have to thank Atlantic Broadband because they're the actual partner that's doing the work. And without them, none of this would happen. Need to thank Mr. Sadler, of course, all the folks at the Broadband Committee, Mr. Parton and Mr. Cully, who had been meeting with Atlantic Broadband for, if I say 5 years, that's probably not enough time, but it's been at least that long. And of course, to Mrs. Hall, who's done a lot of work behind the scenes. We all know she does a lot of work there. I also need to thank the residents of Port Royal who sent countless emails, which really helped us. And I need to thank the folks in the Panola Road area who actually went door to door and collected petitions to let folks know that they would sign up if they got them. And those emails and the petitions were part of our actual grant submission. And I don't know if that was what got us over the hump because we missed out last year by a couple of points. But whatever we did, that and writing the county strategic plan, I think helped a lot too. So it's a great thing. And I need to remind folks again, because I posted something on Facebook about us winning the grant, because I thought it was a wonderful thing. And there were a few comments about my area. What about my area? Am I next? Is this the next place to get it? And I need to let folks know again that broadband expansion is totally up to the private carriers, the cable companies, the power companies, the satellite companies. The county is willing to work with any and all of those. And again, I need to make sure that folks know that we're willing to work with any and all of those. And this Vatti Grant is our first successful step. We are already working on the next grant. We're already working with different types of providers, different types of technology, so that we can get broadband and cable out to those that don't have it. So we're going to continue to work that way. And to all those who don't, help us on the way because we're going to keep trying. And that's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas, and for that broadband committee and everyone who participated with the Vatti Grant. I say well done. I'd first like to offer my condolences to the Coghill and Williams family. Taft was a gentleman just a few years older than I, but certainly person in the community who was well known, always positive, always a smile. And Corey Williams, believe it or not, was a student here at Caroline High School, a young man who passed. So my condolences to those two families during their hours of bereavement. My second comment is on Saturday from 8 till 12, we will have a community vaccination at Second Mount Zion in the Reedy Church District. Reverend Fields and Reverend Dwayne Fields, his son, they were nice enough to come out, and we did logistics with Kevin, the health department. So we will be at Second Mount Zion from 8 to 12 on Saturday. If anyone knows of those seniors or people in groups A, B, and C, I believe, who need a shot, we're going to do at least, they told us 200. So everything will be set up. So if you know someone who needs the vaccine, by all means, please have them get in touch with Reverend Fields, Marvin Fields, pastor Second Mount Zion, or Dwayne Fields from Oxford Mount Zion. Thank you. That's my comments.
Can you?
Abel, you look. Well,
I just also wanted to add on the COVID clinic that was here. A big thanks. The mayor of Port Royal found out he had a couple who were in their 90s who had never been able to get an appointment. He called. Chief said, "Can you have them here by 1?" He called the daughter. She borrowed a car. She got them up here. He came in wearing his World War II veteran's cap, and she was tickled to death. She said the staff and everyone up there treated him like a rock star, and that coming here made them happier than they had been for a long time. So thank you all for your warm hearts and your efficiency when it comes to our citizens.
thank you, Mrs. Long. Any amendments to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I
Mr.
have one. I'm sorry. One small one regarding a moving of funding with the board approval from one department to another.
You want to add that to an agenda item? Could that possibly be 5A?
Sure.
Or that will,
And Mr. DeWitt, I'd also, I don't think it's on here. I have my confirmation for my appointment to Social Services Board, if we could add that somewhere.
okay, if we could add after presentations, we could
Appointments.
do a 1A, do appointments at 1A. And that'll be for the Port Royal District Social Services. So again, our amendments would be 1A for the appointment of the Social Services Board for Port Royal, and 5A would be moving funds. I'm guessing through the different lines. Is that right, Mr. Forehand? Just moving funds.
Correct. It's current budget year to be expended by one department from
Okay.
another department.
We'll talk. Mr. Forehand wishes to discuss moving funds from one department to another. So I'll take a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that we accept the agenda as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The amended agenda has been approved. First on our meeting tonight is a presentation from a request for a salary supplement from the General District Court employees, and Ms. Terry Southworth, I believe. Then we'll go forward. If she comes in, then I will, if the board will permit me, I'll come back to this at a later time. Ms. Long, 1A.
Yes, I'd like to appoint Kay Lipson as the representative from the Port Royal District of Social Services.
There's a motion by Mrs. Long to appoint Ms. Kay Lipset to the Caroline County Social Services Board. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thomas? Ah, sorry, Mr. Thomas. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. You will. We'll now move to item number 2, the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as presented.
There's a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Been properly moved and second that we accept the consent agenda. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Want to go to 4? Yes. Mr. Fincham, are you ready? We will move to agenda item number 5, continued discussion of the proposed zoning ordinance text amendments 17, text amendment 18-2020 through text amendment 21-2020, minor and major solar projects.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. I handed out earlier at your desk the compilation, as best I could understand, the questions from the January 9th and the February 3rd meetings of the board. I will tell you there was a little audio issue with the January 9th meeting, so if in reading through them I missed anything, please let me know, and I'll make sure I follow up and address that issue. We've attempted to address questions from that were raised at those meetings, and I've also provided a couple of attachments where relevant to address questions where there was a specific question about the language or the authority with respect to the regulations. So please feel free to review that and at your leisure and contact me if you have any other questions. Let me briefly, not to dismiss any of the questions, I think the attorneys have discussed the funding options that are available, which I attempted to reiterate. But let me touch on a couple of questions related to the activities and the uses themselves, which I think warrant some further discussion. Mr. Seeley had a question about signage on the panels. Under our definition of a sign, anything that's less than a square foot technically does not meet the definition of a sign. So a little manufacturer's ID technically would not be a sign. But I think given the way the language was drafted in the ordinance, it's easy enough to include that in there to make sure there's no issues regarding manufacturer IDs for panels.
And my comment was purely if one of those panels were to leave the facility, we would know where it came from.
Yeah,
That's all I was looking for, as a way
Yeah.
to identify.
I think we'll do a little tweak. It'll cover it, and then there won't be any question. We'll be able to track it. Mr. Black had some questions about erosion and sediment control, grading issues, and we talked a little bit about the third-party inspectors and who would pay for that. I will tell you that probably a good example of where they've had some fairly substantial issues is the project in Spotsylvania County, where they allow up to 400 acres to be disturbed at any one time. If you look at our 50% threshold, in theory, we could probably get up close to that 400 acres. And even with proper ENS and stormwater measures in place, if you had a significant rain event, there's the possibility that it could overflow those ENS measures or those stormwater measures. So I think that's an area where we may want to go back and tweak it a little bit to perhaps have some interim acreage figures in there to reduce that overall threshold. Ms. Long asked about wildlife management areas. I have included the guidance that DEQ uses in their permit by rule process. It speaks to the total acreage for panels, as well as wildlife corridors and fencing, that we could also include in our regulations or cross-reference that if we so desire. Finally, Mr. Seeley also talked about the toxicity of panels and the potential for recycling. I did include in your packet a 2017 paper from NC State University. There is also I believe, a more recent EPA study that we're trying to get our hands on that addresses toxicity levels as well. That's my brief update. I don't know if any of the board members have looked at the regulations anymore, have any further questions, but I'll.
You have a couple, Mr.
Okay.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes, Mr. Fincham, I got an email from a constituent, and I just wanted to make sure, so I was trying to read it at the same time. But he's got 300 and some acres, and at several points, his land is in the growth area. So is there going to be a case where property that's not in the growth area that extends into the growth area could be used for a solar farm?
The potential is there for the board to evaluate opportunities such as that through a special exception review. So a solar developer, if they have a parcel that extends into a buffer or into the growth area, as part of their project, they can file for a special exception permit and specifically ask the board to review that issue. And we can review that to determine whether it's detrimental to the growth area, to other uses in the area. It may be appropriate that if it's a future growth area, this is a good interim use of the property. So there's an opportunity to review that.
Now, all of these will require a special exception anyhow, right?
Yes. Some of the standards actually have a specific special exception application to review that standard in greater detail. Almost, I'll use a comparison as a comprehensive plan review.
Right. Okay. So it's not a special case where someone has 300 acres and some moves into the growth area that they have to get a special exception. Everybody who wants to do a solar farm has to get a special exception.
Has to do an SE, generally yes, but also there's a special exception specific to that requested modification because it's an additional level of study.
But it's still the same application, just as two parts.
Two yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think that's the answer that he needed.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Ms. Long?
Yes, I got one call of wanting to know about water uses since everyone out there is on wells. And I don't remember if we have an idea. I'm sure it depends on what type of panels and how many, and are they going to dig wells? Are they going to haul in water? I couldn't remember.
There really shouldn't be that much water usage with the solar facility itself because it's electrical generation. So you're taking the sunlight. converting it to direct current and then to alternating current to upload it into the system.
Don't they have to be washed to keep dirt and dust and that
They-
type of thing off of them?
Occasionally there's some washing, but a lot of times they'll allow the natural rain events to take care
So
of
it's
that.
not like it's gonna be done daily or twice a day or anything like that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. If you could just sort of give me an idea so I can get back as to how often it's done,
Mhm.
that would help me answer their question. Thank you.
And also, most of them aren't going to have irrigation for the vegetation that's planted beneath the panels either. It'll be for the most part, native vegetation that's suitable to the climate in which Virginia is located.
Thank you, Mrs. Long. Mr. Seeley?
Mr. Fincham, I know we talked about this and I don't know when, I'm just curious when we have to make the revenue source decision. Is that during the application? Or does that have to be in the ordinance prior to any of this?
We talked to the attorneys about that. They're actually already working on an example of like a revenue sharing package, as well as the citing agreement, an example citing agreement. Whenever you adopt it, you either have to go with the M&T tax from as determined by the State Corporation Commission through their assessment of the value of the equipment, or you have the option of revenue sharing. So with respect to those two, if you choose to adopt a revenue sharing model, it would then apply across the board. You can't pick and choose which projects you want that to apply to. So it's either all M&T or all revenue sharing.
Okay.
It doesn't have to necessarily be adopted with this ordinance, but I think I would work with the attorneys to try to get that ordinance for public hearing at the same time. It would make sense.
Okay, and one other question, the proffer situation, I noticed there's some ambiguity in your answer. Whether we can do proffers or not do proffers with these projects?
We wouldn't recommend it.
Okay,
We've talked to the county attorney, Mr. McKenzie and I have discussed it. The language is a little squirrely. So it speaks to cash, to conditions to allow you to impose a cash or a financial requirement, but that's really inconsistent with previous General Assembly regulations consistent with cash proffers. So I think we all agree we should probably leave that alone and go with the citing agreements and whichever revenue sharing or taxing authority you want to choose.
okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fitchum. So, how does the board wish to proceed?
Mr. Black, did you still have some questions from the last meeting? I thought I recalled you still had a question or two that we didn't get to.
Oh, mine was, I thought we were gonna talk privately about the
Okay,
extending the.
whenever you get a chance.
Extending this, yes.
Okay.
I wanna do that offline.
Okay.
So, Mr. Fincham, what would you like us to do now going forward with these text amendments?
Mr. Chairman, it's really up to the board. I realize I got the answers to you a little late to your questions, but if you want to set a public hearing for April or even May, that's fine. If you want to have another work session and look at it some more, that's fine with me as well.
I'd like to set it for May rather than any time in April. Just move it back, give us the opportunity to go through this, maybe do some comparisons. But if that's okay with the board, then I'll move it to the May agenda. Is that? Yeah. We'll move it to the May agenda.
Do you want a ninth? Oh, let's see.
Let's do it the second meeting.
Second meeting? Okay. Are you also okay with letting me do any necessary cleanups or anything
Yes, absolutely.
in comparison? Okay.
If you bring it to us in the cleanest format possible, So if there's any questions, they should be very minor. You could get those to us. When you make those, after you make those,
Yes,
give
sir.
us an opportunity to look at those before we come. So if we have questions, then we can ask those questions and we can seal the deal.
Okay.
Okay.
If that's the desire of the board, then the appropriate action would be to authorize a public hearing for the second meeting in May.
All right, hold, one more question, Mr. Finch, Ms. Long.
Yes, when you do the tweaking, can you color code it so I don't have to read that whole long thing again? Can you
Of course.
highlight any changes for me?
Of course, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And get it to us so that if we want to have a work session, we have enough time to squeeze one in?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Long. Thank you, Mr. Fincham.
Do you want a motion, Mr. Chairman, for the
I don't
second
think we-
meeting in May?
I don't think, do we need a motion for that? Just put it on the agenda. We do need a motion? Then
Public hearing.
then I think-
I'll make the motion. We put this for public, the solar panel, facility on the second meeting in May agenda.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion that we put the,
Public hearing.
have the public hearing regarding the major minor solar project, the second meeting in May. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 4, which is an update on the litter collection and prevention program. Mr. Shebel, good seeing you this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff, and all. As you said, we're going to have a quick discussion, hopefully, on our litter collection and program and the efforts that Caroline County is making. So first, I'd like to kind of get into recycling, and got some great news. I know I'd forwarded this, but just as a reminder that Caroline County is required to meet or exceed our recycling rate of 15% as set by the General Assembly. So Caroline County exceeded that requirement by 23.9%. As such, we had a 38.9% recycling rate as confirmed by DEQ. So to me, big kudos to Caroline County. That not only goes to staff, but also to some of our communities like Caroline, Lake Landor, AP Hill, and some of our businesses. All that gets combined in our report. So that's Caroline County's report of what we have. Also, just want to remind the board that we now have added newly recycling for clothing at 3 of the sites at free of charge: Ladysmith, Bowling Green, and Dawn. So that's all reused. Also, we renegotiated with a new vendor for our oil recycling, and that's at all of our convenience sites, and that's for used motor oil. We now have that where that is accepted at no charge. We used to have to pay a trip fee and then so much per gallon. Now they have eliminated that with the new program, and we're now doing that at no cost to the county. Just want to let the board know that as part of this program that we have been impacted due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So solid waste supervisor, he has become a truck driver. So for the past 6 months, he's been doing a lot of truck driving with some of the shifts that we've got, trying to keep staff healthy. Also, our environmental coordinator clerk that's typically would be at the solid waste site, taking phone calls, keeping track, actually has been moved. She was at my office for about 6 months in the interim as a secretary, trying to assist there as we were working through those shifts. So their duties have somewhat been challenging as they've been doing other duties as well. And then litter technicians. Currently, we have 2 litter technicians. County policy is that you can only have 1 person in a vehicle at a time. So we've got 2 vehicles for litter, and we've had those 2 technicians. We have recently had advertised and actually have just sent out a letter to offer a job to the 3rd staff person that we have. So we've got 3 staff members. Also, during the pandemic, we had some programs that were delayed, such as the Harvest Festival in October. That was canceled. Our Cash for Trash program we're hoping to roll out, as well as our Litter-thon. So all those were canceled due to the pandemic, kids being at home, people not being allowed to come in groups. So just kind of an update of where we are on our litter. So for 2020, our litter technicians removed 1,520 bags of trash. That equates to 16,720 pounds of trash covering 325 miles of ditch lines. So they were busy in 2020. 2021 already, and again, we've got 2 technicians. Our 2 technicians have already removed 304 bags of trash, over 3,300 pounds, covering 54 miles of ditch line. So they've been very busy. Our Adopt a Highway program, staff's been working for the past 6 months with VDOT, and we are now being told that we are unable to get access into their computer-based tracking software that they use. When we had signed the MOU, it was the intent in all of our discussions that we would be able to have access into that to be able to track all of the participants and be able to record all that data. That did not work out. Staff since that time now has created templates allowing us to track all of our participants. We've also created Adopt a Highway applications. We've set up 2 email addresses. One of them is adoptaroad@carolinecountyvirginia.gov, and another one that says trashstinks@carolinecountyvirginia.gov. So those are set up to allow us to have a email address that we can point at any different time to a different employee. If an employee leaves, retires, or anything like that, we can automatically take that same address and just move that so there's a constant contact. So currently we have 32 Adopt a Highway permits. Of the 32, only 5 reported pickups and were active in 2020. So knowing that the pandemic is going on and the restriction to meet in groups and things like that, we looked at 2019. So if we looked at 2019, out of those 32 permits, only 10 of them were actually active and provided pickups. So we've got a long ways to go of trying to encourage people to be able to participate. 3 weeks ago, I mailed out a letter to all the participants, letting them know about the exciting news that Caroline County will now be administering the Adopt a Highway program here in Caroline County. In there, we talked about the MOU between the county and VDOT and how this memo is the first of its kind in the Commonwealth. We also let them know Caroline County wishes to build on and facilitate the Virginia Adopt a Highway program success, increase awareness, promote the program in Caroline County, grow countywide participation, motivate volunteers, promote beautification and litter prevention along the county roads. We thank them for helping keep Caroline County clean and beautiful. We also reminded them that spring is a great time to get out and perform one of their required biannual pickups. We asked each organization if they would contact us so we could update their information and reaffirm their support to keep Caroline County beautiful. We introduced staff members and provided contact information. And finally, we let them know that we're here to support and encourage them in this vital mission as we make this program a success here in Caroline County. Over the next few weeks, staff will be calling and emailing all the permit holders that have not contacted us. We'll be mailing out a second later to all the permit holders that have not responded or we were unable to contact, letting them know that their permit would be canceled and their Adopt a Highway signs would be removed if they do not contact us. We've worked with the Commonwealth Attorney on court-ordered community service. He's advised he advised us that he needed a formal request in which we sent that over, asking that we have court-ordered community service. We talked about how we would monitor and track that information and the requirements that he had asked for. As the pandemic is slowing down and the restrictions are slowly being lifted, we hope to begin coordinating with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office on these court-ordered participants soon. Grants. I'm pleased to announce that Caroline County was awarded a $10,000 competitive grant from DEQ to use towards our many programs. Some of our future plans. In the summer of this year, we're hoping to have new Adopt a Highway participants. We're going to be targeting churches, clubs, and businesses, trying to get additional participants. In the fall of 2021, we hope to be working with the schools for a clean up and cash in program targeting school athletic programs and clubs. This fall, we're also looking to do a litterathon targeting all nonprofit groups and clubs. And then we're also going to be working with the school on an art contest at the high school to design a wrap for our new litter van. In spring of 2022, we're hoping to do a Cash for Trash, targeting all nonprofit groups and clubs. And again, in the spring of 2022, we'll do a cleanup and cash in program targeting the school athletic programs and clubs again. On April 12th of 2022, at the board meeting, we would like to recognize all of our Adopt a Highway participants in honor of Earth Day of that same month. It's in our vision that we would ask each of those to come in We would provide with the grant a plaque of just thanking them for however many years of service that they provided for their litter cleanup. And that would give us a year to get the program in and have the history of what they had and be able to do that as a recognition to them. In conclusion, despite the pandemic, staff is excited about the many opportunities currently underway and that those exist in the near future. Staff deeply appreciates the support given by the Board of Supervisors to help keep Caroline County clean and to protect our natural resources. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Shebel. Board members have Mr. Black.
Yeah, I've got a few. First of all, the 38% recycling rate, which is great news. So that's just the trash companies reporting to, like, for example, when they come into the subdivisions, like Lake Landor, Lake Caroline, you have a trash and you have a recycling. So is that where that's coming from? Are they reporting it to the state somehow, for that percentage?
Yes, we started about 3 years ago working with the haulers in those different areas and started adding those. So we've been bumping around 30, 32%. So we were able to go from 32 up to 38, adding the subdivisions. So what we're targeting is some of your bigger businesses that have cardboard. We also track all the recycling that we do. So while we do commingled recycling, every ton of that gets measured and is taking in. Tire recycling that the county does. We've got glass, cans, batteries, all the brush that we have can all be included in as recycling. So all that's all gathered together. All of our oil gets marked down. Any of the papers that we have from the government documents that we have, all that gets counted towards recycling and added together for that report.
On the cash for trash, so there's nothing going on right now for the cash for trash at all?
There's not. Due to the pandemic and the limitation to the size of groups, we have not done anything to be able to move that forward. School's just now getting back into session, so trying to get them on board to try to do anything for the rest of this year. So we really need to be working with the teachers and school administration to kind of move that forward. Staff will be contacting the schools and setting that up before the end of this school year, so at least we can get a hold of some of the staff necessary to do that and get the program kind of rolled out for next year so that as soon as we start the year, they'll already know what the program is and how it's going to work and make sure we can answer any questions that they may have.
Okay, the last couple of things that I have, as far as, because like, for example, for myself on a personal level, like the Lake Landor one, I'm the one who's kind of the spearhead of that. And so when we're done, I just go into a computer program on VDOT and say I had, like, there was 10 volunteers today. It took us 2 hours. I just type it in, boom, and I'm done. I just, we had 20 hours, volunteer hours total. We covered from here to here. We need a trash pickup. Do we have a computer program that will be simple enough? Or how's that? I mean, because Landor has not, obviously the letter went to Lake Landor. Landor hasn't contacted me, but I'm wondering, is it going to be that simple for the people that are active, that are doing it?
So we don't have it set up as where you can actually, as a particular participant, can do that. You can continue to use the Adopt a Highway program, and we have to go in and actually
so I
physically.
can still use so they can still use.
They can still use that. So we don't want to detract away from that.
Because I think that's a very simple system to use.
Yeah.
And then you can pull the reports off that.
Yes, and we use that information. So what we have to do is we actually have to call VDOT. They have to print us a report, and then we get the report. So we don't actually see that. What we would really like is, if it's possible, is to give us firsthand information and faster is to send an email or call and just say, here's what we've done, how many participants, how much was done. And that way we can record that information.
Okay, that's fine. And then the last thing is, all of this stuff right here sounds wonderful, Mr. Shebel. It does. But the only thing is like, for a lot of people, social media I think a lot of the board of supervisors have social media. We have kind of like a Facebook post where we put out there, and we're really going to need to push this to the public. Because the public's not going to go to the county website. I mean, they just rarely does that happen. It says, oh, I want to go to the Caroline County website today. It just we need to get people involved through social media to spread the word through the schools as much as any way we can get it out to the public. That's kind of a modern way to get it out there. I think we really need to do this, because these are some great ideas, but like a lot of this stuff I'm kind of learning about right now myself. And I think you'll get more active organizations involved, because even last night Mr. Seeley was on the phone call with me last night, but there was a GWRC meeting, and Stafford County brought up the fact that it's the trash situation in all localities is It's not getting better. It's getting worse. I mean, Ladysmith Road looks horrible right now. And it just, I don't know why it's getting worse, but it is getting worse. I know there's an enforcement piece there. But we need as much as help as possible on this as well.
Yes, sir. So one of the things we'd planned on doing is to target the schools. Of course, we've got that accessibility through the teachers and the different clubs and the sponsors. As far as trying to hit our community organizations, the county has a list of all the community organizations, nonprofits that we have in the entire county, whether it's Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, the different clubs, churches, and stuff like that. So, such as the Caroline County Litter-thon that we've already developed a kind of an attention to all nonprofit groups and clubs. We'd planned on mailing this out, letting them know that the months of September through October, we'll be doing the Litter-thon, how to contact us. It's basically we would approve the section of road, $5 a bag. So we've got this information that we'll be able to post out and be able to put out there, as well as mail those to the individual groups and clubs, trying to get as much participation. It'll be on the county's webpage as well. And then hopefully as we discuss through future updates, hopefully some of this information
I mean,
can
and one of
get
the
out
things
there.
we contacted the schools themselves to adopt. I mean, I'm sorry, Dr. Calvaric, they understand that the Board of Supervisors is so generous to the schools, they could in turn at least, do some adopting of the highway near the high school, middle school, elementary school. Maybe some teachers do that as well. So
Yeah, we're going to be working really through this summer, trying to get new adoptees. So
okay.
we're going to be talking to pastors, and if we have to go and speak to the congregation, we'll do that. We'll be talking to store managers and owners, trying to get them to adopt
Okay.
the different areas.
I appreciate it. I mean, it would just be good to have the schools as a partner in that. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Mr. Seeley?
Mr. Shebel, I just want to first say that the attendants at the sites have gotten people to break down boxes. They've been nice about it. It's taken a long time. The number of full bins that I've seen in Bowling Green is amazing. I just wanted to commend the attendants who've been asking people to please break down the boxes so you can get more in there. I don't think people have understood the volume since COVID of what's actually gone on at the different facilities. I mean, the volume of traffic isn't what it was last April, but it's right up there this last couple of weekends of people with limbs, people with boxes. I mean, it's a shame we can't send the Amazon boxes back to Amazon and get like 25 cents a piece. Because the stack that I saw, I mean, and they were perfectly good boxes, broken down, bottoms cut in the recycling bin. If there were a way to sell them back to them, I mean, it would really be a boon to us.
One of the things that we're looking at doing is actually putting in cardboard recycling at both Ladysmith and Bowling Green. When we get the new site in Ladysmith, we'll have room, but putting in an additional box just to do cardboard recycling, cardboard's still bringing money, and pretty good money. So we can take that as a separate waste stream and generate funds out of that. So that's what we're looking to do in the future.
And the closer you put that to the attendants so they can keep an eye on it, because they do a good job. And I know people don't always give them grief sometimes. I've had to actually tell people to relax. They work here. You want to scream at somebody, I'm standing here. But those folks do a great job. But the closer they can get to be able to monitor that, because people just want to throw everything they bring, the Clorox bottle, the laundry detergent bottle, all that stuff in there. But if we could sell Amazon boxes back, the stack I saw in there last Sunday was incredible. But I want to just commend the attendants for getting boxes, because they used to just be in there unbroken up and all kinds of stuff. And I've seen them ask people nicely to do it. Sometimes people aren't so nice back, but they've come a long way. So I just want to pass on the thanks to them.
Yeah, Mr. Johnson's been doing a great job. It's one of the things that we've talked about in our division head staff meetings is about how the cost of transporting waste. If we've got 2-3 tons of trash in an open top box, the more that we can crush it down and put more in. Same thing with recycling. The more boxes we can get in there, and then if I can move that number to 4 or 5 tons in a box, that goes a long way. So trying to be as efficient as we can. So he's done a great job. The site attendants are willing to help, and the citizens for the most part are willing to do that. So.
Well, it's been noticeable. I mean, when you look in, when you're throwing stuff in, you can see where boxes either broke down or not. And I've just noticed it's been incredible. I mean, it's a small thing, but it's something you notice as because I'm also guilty of lots of boxes. So, stacked up. But again, if we could do separate cardboard, but you can get it somewhere where they can keep an eye and really label it clearly, I think people would really pay attention, would go a long way. But
Okay,
thank
sounds
all
good.
them for them,
Yes,
for
sir.
me or for the board.
And one of the things that we've noticed over the last 3 to 4 years is kind of the flop. It always used to be from Christmas to New Year's used to be the busiest week that we had for disposing of trash. Now it's actually almost even. The 2 weeks before Christmas are now are almost greater than what it is after Christmas. And the reason is that is all the cardboard that comes in from all the shipping. This year was huge, so we were about break even between what we got those 2 weeks compared to the week after, if you looked at years in the past. And as you had said 2 weekends ago, when we had the nice few days in the week and then the weekend, we had every single box as full as we could go, and we had all the drivers in on Monday just trying to haul trash because we didn't have any spare boxes anywhere.
Thank you, Mr. Sealy. Mrs. Long?
Just a quick rundown. You said we make money on the cardboard. In our stop, everything goes in there that you think is recyclable. What actually, for people who do watch this on YouTube, do you want in that recycle bin as opposed to the compactor?
We've got a whole list. If they go to the Caroline County webpage under solid waste, it's got a whole list of all the materials that we can put in our co-mingling. So it's everything from cardboard to paper, magazines, all of your cans, your plastic goods, your glass can all go into that one stream. Up until 6 months ago, we actually used to be able to dispose of that at no cost. Well, now because of the downturn in the economy and with everything with the pandemic, we're starting to having to pay to dispose of that. It's still cheaper than it is for solid waste to take it to the landfill. But knowing that recycling is such an important topic, we're still continuing that program even though it's costing us to do that.
Okay, so no changes really.
No changes.
Cost change. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Long. Mr. Thomas? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Shebel, let me say, first of all, I think you're doing a great job.
Thanks, sir.
Probably the problem is overwhelming for everybody because as Mr. Black mentioned, social media is basically saying it's getting worse all over. And I think we've all had you in our respective districts at one time or another. And I don't know what to do to fix it. I know trying to have and adopt a highway program is a good idea, and we may or may not get folks to do it, but do we need to give you more people?
Prevention, I think, is going to be your biggest asset. If you can stop it, that's where your biggest bang for your buck's going to be. But the only way to continue to pick up, I mean, we've got one gentleman, as you're aware of, that wants us to pick the road up every week, and it's just not possible. So we've got him on a quarterly cycle to pick that area road up. It is an area that is high trash, so we've got those issues there. But more staff, we can definitely put more people on there. But with staff, right now we could take 2 more part-time litter techs, and I've got a way to transport them as soon as we get out of this pandemic. April 1 loosens us up a little bit, and then after that, hopefully we can get a little more. But I'm hoping that with court-ordered service workers, that'll help us a lot to help augment our staff. So that way, hopefully, there's not a cost to Caroline County.
Bless you. Well, and I mean, you mentioned the one person I have that wants it done daily, basically. But I do have a person that actually does it himself. I think you know that person too.
In Carmel Church?
Yes.
Yes.
And he's been doing it for 100 years, it seems like, and does a great job. But what ideas do we have for prevention? I mean, does anybody know? You can't tell anybody don't throw their trash away. I mean, we try, but that's not working.
So part of our grant, I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask, before you go there, Mr. Shebel, are we allowed to have a carry-out tax in the county versus Eden?
That's a good question.
No. Mr. Emerson? Some localities do. That's what I'm asking. Go through the drive-through or take out.
Mr. Emerson, can you tell us whether Caroline County would be allowed to enact a tax on takeout food?
And I do not know offhand. I'm sorry, no, I don't know. You would have to have specific authority under the under the code to do that, and we would have to research that.
And your mic's.
We ask him to research that, see if it's possible that we do. I know some localities charge if you go through the drive-through or you take out versus, I mean, with COVID, everybody's taking out now. That's probably part of the issue. Is there's more trash now that I think about it being taken out through the drive-through since everybody's doing drive-through. But I do know some localities charge more for drive-through than they do for eat-in. Because I was in the industry.
But I mean, is it possible, like, to talk about what ideas we'd have for prevention? You know, I know enforcement is another story, but that's another story. So what ideas would we have for prevention?
I think that's a story that has to be brought to the table. I mean, we have to. I mean, you'll see, for example, and I know they're understaffed right now. We know that. But I think there needs to be some sort of public. You know how when you have a narcotics bust or something, it's public. You know, you have they set up like on New Year's and so forth. They set up you know, you have spot checks for DUI. I mean, you know, we're going to need to work with the sheriff's office, get him involved in the conversation about what can we do to start saying, because we have a bunch of signs that say no littering. And I'll be honest with you, when you go to pick up and you're near a no littering sign, it's a target for litter. So they actually like when you put up like the bags, and you wait for VDOT, like we'll do it on a Saturday, and then VDOT comes and picks it up on Monday morning. Like you'll see people like aiming at the bag, their trash, and so near the sign. So there needs to be, I don't know if there's some sort of, because there are certain hot spots like Coolwater Drive,
Yeah.
Page Road. When you turn onto Page Road from Route 1, there are certain hot spots in this county that the amount of trash that's there, it just wouldn't seem like it would be too difficult to find someone. There needs to be an enforcement mechanism, because if there's not, then it's just gonna it's like saying, oh, DUI, but we never have you know, you never have roadblocks, or you never pull someone over for it. You know, so I mean, we're gonna need to have the sheriff in on a conversation with that. And I know it's difficult. I understand it's difficult, as Major Moser has pointed out. You know, when you have a police officer behind you, you're not throwing out the trash because you know the police officer's behind you. But it's getting on the road somehow, and so maybe there's something we can brainstorm with them to figure it out.
Yeah, because I mean, Mr. Shebel says prevention is the main way to stop it, but if we can't come with any idea of how to prevent it, then we're going to be reactive regardless.
So last year we actually had a grant. We had to turn it back in, but it was for a magic show, and it was an environmentally magic show to go into the school system and to be able to talk about trash. And the guy would have, you know, laundry detergent bottles, and he'd do magic with them, and he'd talk to the kids, and it was targeting, you know, second, third graders, and it was something that we had gotten a grant for to go into the schools, and then when schools shut down, that wasn't possible. Those are one of the things that we thought, to start targeting the kids when they're younger, so that they can start to identify that that's not a good habit. Also, there was an environmental group that was able to come in, and they had a bunch of different animals, everything from ravens to little otters and different little animals they were able to bring in, talk to the kids about them, and talk to them about the impacts. And those are things that we're getting into the schools and letting kids know this isn't a good idea. So those are programs that we want to get back into doing, or get into doing. And that's one of the things that we talked about with this environmental coordinator position. Our supervisor of solid waste actually is a licensed teacher. So he's going to be working on programs. He worked in Spotsylvania County in their litter prevention department up there. They actually have what's called a seed trailer that they put together with grant money, and they take it to the different schools, and the kids come out, and they actually have an iPad that each of them are given as they go through, and they click on the little codes up there, and it gives them a little narrative about the different things. And it talks about litter, it talks about environmental impacts, and those are things that we've been told by Spotsylvania that we can actually bring down, and they would provide us with a staff member to come down and teach us how to use that, and we would actually be able to take those around. And they actually made up with the SOL learning in the school system. So those are things that we would like to try to bring down and do here in Caroline County. Special enforcement, you know, once we can get staff back up, I think that's something that we can look at doing, is targeting special enforcement like we do for speeding. There is fines. We can actually make areas, litter areas, and have different fines for in those areas. and then do some special enforcement in there. And I think that'll help in those areas because we definitely have, there's a dozen areas that I could probably name off that are high areas of litter.
Well, I think we see those from your report, so maybe that's one of the things we need to do is try to work together to do that.
We were,
I think we should again go back to look at and prioritize certain hotspots and then draw up a action plan for each area. I think we should really take an opportunity. We do have some hot spots. Most of them are around our major traffic areas, around our fast food restaurants, around our major thoroughfares. If we look at those first, you'll be surprised how much, and we set up a program to address litter in those areas first and make a priority. I think we'll begin to see and have impact. But if we do the shotgun approach, I don't think we're going to have very much effect. So I would ask you that you consider looking at the county, looking at the hot spots, and then talking about with all players what we can do to and put a program in place there and see if it works, and then move it to another hot spot. That's what I'd like to see.
the other thing too, Mr. Shebel, I don't know, but I think working with the schools is going to be key. I don't know how much information the school board has on some of these programs. Maybe a presentation to them at one of their meetings would be helpful. I think getting teachers on board, some of your science teachers at the local level, I'm sure Dr. Calveric would be willing to work with teachers, and not just in a second grade situation. We cover it in second grade, but like a year situation where there's some time taken to it, because you start to build it from the bottom eventually, and the kids are coming home saying, you shouldn't be throwing that out the window to the parents. And I think long term it has an effect. I really do. So I think working with the schools would be key. So I think that's a component. If you can get on, maybe work with them to get on a school board meeting schedule to kind of talk to them about some of the ideas and involve them too, because I think that would be a real big help.
Yeah, so kind of three-stepping it, you kind of start off with the prevention when the kids are in elementary school and doing those magic shows and environmental programs where you can bring those in. Then you kind of step up to like the seed trailer, really gets into those middle school kids where they actually have iPads and going through the trailers and learning those kind of things. And then when you get into the high school, and even some of the middle school, you're really targeting, them picking up trash and actually working towards doing that. And then they see, how much, most of the time you're driving down the road, they probably don't pay attention. They're probably looking down playing video games. They're not even looking out the window. But, if they realize how much trash is actually on the road, it might help them pay attention to that. So I agree. You definitely need to be targeting, the younger group and working it through.
Mr. Forehand.
We could set up something in the county just to offer, $100 reward for for the best 2-minute Facebook video on litter. We have some very creative young people in the county. I like the art contest and the magician. I think is great. We could also increase our fines if we wanted to. So when we actually catch someone, that it's not a $25 fine, it's a $500 fine, or it's a $800 fine. Things like that. That's also something that we can do. We got to start somewhere, and right now we've done really nothing but pick up trash, which is just enabling the problem. So anything we do is better than what we have done in the past. So anyway, just some ideas. It really wouldn't cost a whole lot, but it would get the word out there. It would reward some people to being creative, and kind of like the sheriff's department videos that were going around a year or two ago. They got a lot of people jazzed up and watching videos on Facebook and things like that. So we can
Thank
take
you,
it back
Mr.
on that.
Forehand.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas?
They used to have a thing on 95 express lanes where there was a number you could call to report somebody that was in the HOV lanes that wasn't supposed to be. If the sheriff doesn't see him and other citizens see him, maybe we could at least kind of identify people like that.
The problem with that though is that I've had some constituents call me, and then they've called the sheriff's department. They have to go to court to testify again. So that makes people very uncomfortable. So right now you have to show up to court. So if you see someone littering, throwing something out the window, it's your word versus their word basically. And you have to actually, if you're going to do something, you have to go down and do something about it, and then you have to show up to court. So that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. That makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
Well, maybe we could work it out, just like a publish, I saw this car with this license plate litter, and that's it. And it could be anonymous or whatever. Yeah, yeah, your own litter page on Facebook. You report these people.
It's definitely worth a
I mean, we're talking prevention.
deeper conversation. If prevention is going to be part of it. So, any other questions from the board? Thank you, Mr. Sheba. We'll be we're talking about this, I'm sure.
Thank you. Great discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if he can
Yes.
stay there, he's actually a catalyst of 5A.
Mr. We're going to go ahead to agenda item number 5A, which is moving funds. Mr. Forehand, you put this on the agenda.
Yes, started thinking more intently regarding the next phase of the Caroline Woodland Trail, and gotten some feedback, I think, from all of the supervisors, and there is some money available in Parks and Rec budget that was unutilized due to the pandemic, and we were looking to move that to a different line item. And Mr. Sheba, correct me if I'm wrong, if I say the wrong term, but to a different line item in budget so that we can write a third-party contract to do some of this work, so staff doesn't have to.
So you're saying we would like to move funds from one line item in the recreation budget to
our
fund the
Public Works
trail,
correct.
Right?
So-
The Woodland Trail. That what you're
To
requesting?
the Public Works budget, so
For
it can
the-
be funded through.
to the Public Works budget.
Correct.
Okay. So Mr. Sheba was talking about if the board would be willing to take funds from, move funds from the recreation budget because they haven't spent it to Mr. Sheba's budget to be used specifically for the Woodland Trail.
That's correct.
Correct.
And the amount we're moving, I think, should be stated.
The amount?
So
Mr.
Mr. Howard actually worked with our finance director, Ms. Smith, and worked on identifying areas in his budget where he has funds available.
No, the amount.
The amount, it's taken out of 4 separate line items, but the amount
But
would
the
be
total?
14,500.
Say that again, please.
14,500.
So what the board is at, what Mr. Forehand is asking is that the board authorize Mr. Cully to, Mr. Cully, so maybe not Mr. Cully. Sorry.
A budget transfer from the Parks and Recreation to general properties.
Okay.
And we'll put the line number, the actual, you've got them. They don't need all
So-
those, no, you don't need all those line numbers, but
Okay.
it'll go out of 4 lines
Into
into
budget.
one line. in
total
the-
of 14.5.
Correct, 14.5.
So
I just got a quick question. What would this transfer be? I mean, what exactly would we be doing here?
So we've targeted right now at $5,000 to actually bring a machine in that would actually go through and mulch the new trail. So right now it's grown up. Most of the stuff is probably between half an inch up to maybe 2.5 inches, and they come through and actually mulch all of that right on the ground, right where it's at. So with 5,000 of that, we've identified at least 3 crossings that we're going to have to put in some additional culvert pipes and put some stone in those areas. So that's what we would be targeting is making the trail usable so you can walk. It won't be covered in cinder dust like the other trail, but it would be usable like most of your state parks. It looks more natural with some bridge crossings.
How long would this trail be?
What do you think, Mr. Forehand? 2.5 miles?
It was in a 2.5 mile ballpark, just over 2.5
So
miles.
once we get it cut, we actually spent quite a bit of time today walking and marking and flagging the trail, so that we know exactly where we would want it at. Once we get it cut, then we can actually measure it and
So
see
is it
how
right
long
near the
it is.
current trail?
Sir,
Is it right near the current trail?
it's actually behind the school bus garage,
Okay.
so it's on the
And they
the
would
other side of the
It
road.
would tie in from where the current trail goes close to Devil's Three Jump Road. We would break right across the road, directly right across the road is where we would start in behind the bus garage and behind those.
on this right side,
Yeah, yeah.
same side as the bus road.
Yep.
Correct. Again, it's a large chunk of county-owned land there. not being utilized.
And then VDOT's got a grant that we discussed of possibly putting in for a grant to be able to put in a pedestrian walkway from the high school down Devil's Street jump in front of the park, all the way past the school bus garage. They'd be able to put in crosswalks from the middle school across the road as well as down where the new trail would
But you're just
cross.
dealing with this right now.
We're just dealing with that, but we would
So
be
that's where
submitting
we'll
for
stay
that.
there right now. How does the board wish to proceed?
Mr.
I'll take a motion.
Mr. Underwood, I would move that we do a budget transfer for $14,500 to general property for this project.
There's a motion to move $14,500 from the recreation department budget to general
I'll second.
properties. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Forehand seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Cully, you'll take care of that.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Sheba, will that get bid out, or
Thank you, sir.
are you gonna use somebody that's already under contract?
We'll use our current contract.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, this one we can't do anything else. We're gonna take. There's none but information calendar. Okay, Mr. Cully, are you prepared to do the information and calendar items at this time?
I can be.
Oh, okay, then I'll give you a minute to gather your thoughts. We're gonna need one. That's what I was hoping.
Yeah, pick a day. We have a budget public hearing scheduled for the 13th of April, which is our next regular meeting at 6 o'clock.
I'm gonna be tied up till the 8th. I'm tied up all next week till Thursday.
So all the second week? Oh.
Is there any reason why the board wouldn't want to do the 12th Monday before our next meeting, the 13th? Meet Monday, then Tuesday. Meet on Monday, the 12th.
Mr. Chairman, I'm good
Mr.
with
Thomas, you
the
okay with that?
12.
I have a standing 7, but I guess I can.
We should be able to do 5. We can take more than 2 hours. Mr. Ford, can you make a 5 o'clock meeting on the 12th? Beautiful. Mr. Cully, could you schedule us for a 5 o'clock work session on April 12th?
Yes, sir.
We'll do our regular meeting on the 13th
Correct. You just need to recess out of tonight's meeting
until
till 12
yes.
at 5 o'clock. EOC.
All right, you want to go
Wait
ahead
a
and do the
minute.
rest of
Is that a Monday?
Yeah, it's a Monday.
That's the
It's
Monday.
a Monday.
There's the ball.
Yeah, vaccination plan.
Oh,
At
but
5
they're usually
o'clock,
done by
won't they
2.
Yeah, there you
Yeah, but they got to, as long as they're out of there and got all their stuff put away. I don't know. That's fine.
We should be fine. No,
Yeah, we'll be over here, right?
We'll be okay.
In the
Okay.
EOC.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and do the information on the calendar? Mr.
That
Cully?
was the only thing on the calendar is the meeting on the 12th at 5 o'clock and the regular board meeting on the 13th.
Thank you, sir. All right, this time we're going to take a break, 15 minutes until 7:30, when we'll start off with public comment. We are recessed. 7:30, the board will reconvene. We will open up the board meeting for public comment. Public comment is a period for the purpose of allowing the public to speak to the board regarding any matter which is not scheduled for public hearing at the next meeting or expected within the next 60 days. The public comment shall not be a forum to debate the board or a question and answer session. Remarks will be addressed only to the board and not staff. And comments shall focus on matters or issues before the board or the county and not individual board members. Each speaker shall have clearly stated, each speaker shall state her name clearly, the voting district, and they'll have 3 minutes in which to speak. Public comment is now open. Is there anyone else who would wish to speak during public comment? Is there anyone here who would like to speak during public comment? And finally, is there anyone here who would like to speak during public comment? Seeing no one, public comment is now closed. We'll now move into our public hearings. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your one and only public hearing tonight is SPEX 10-2019. Raza Mushtaq, Vagas Mushtaq, and Muhammad Yassin Akhtar, owners and applicant, are requesting a special exception permit in accordance with Article 17, Section 13, and Article 9, Section 3.16 of the Caroline County zoning ordinance on tax parcel 26-A-30, which contains 1.02 acres of land. The property is located adjacent to 5513 Jefferson Davis Highway at the Caroline Spotsylvania County lines and is in the Port Royal voting district. The proposed use is a used car sales establishment. If the board will recall, back in, I believe it was December, you approved a rezoning to B1 business with a number of conditions on this property, which included the potential for a used car sales establishment with the approval of a subsequent special exception permit from the board. The applicant made the application for the special exception permit, which is before you for your consideration tonight. The Planning Commission held its public hearing on this application and forwarded it to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of approval subject to the 8 conditions contained on page 3 of the staff report. With that, I'll address any questions that the board may have.
Okay. I'll open up. At this time, I will open up public hearing for SPX 10-29. Is the applicant here? Is there anyone? Yes, please come down. If you would state your name.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Stephen Judy. I'm an attorney. I have my office at 9010 Old Battlefield Boulevard in Spotsylvania. I'm here on behalf of the applicants. I will not attempt to go back through this all because I think we're all fairly familiar with this. I think I've been here often enough that I may need to move out here. As Mike indicated to you, you have approved the rezoning of this property, and the intent has always been to use this property for a car sales facility. As you would recall, how we got to where we are is that this parcel, the vast majority of the parcel is in Spotsylvania, and Spotsylvania had given them approval to go ahead and operate their facility, not aware that part of the property was in Caroline at the time that they started. And of course, we do know that now, and we've been through this process with you all to get the rezoning. We're now before you to ask for the special use permit to allow the specific use of a car sales facility. As Mike said, we are willing to abide by the specific conditions that are listed. Obviously, we'll record whatever is necessary after approval. I think the limiting factor here is that the planning department has asked that there be no more than 9 vehicles parked on the Caroline side of the property, and we have no issue with that, so long as there is an understanding that our intent is to revamp that little building that's on the Caroline side and use it as a place to detail cars, so to speak. And so there may be 9 cars parked in the parking lot, but there may be 1 or 2 also inside the building being detailed. And I don't think the planning department didn't indicate that there was an issue with that, and that certainly is our intent. But we only have 9 designated spaces on the Caroline side, and we will limit the number of cars on the Caroline side to that. Certainly my clients are well aware that if they want to expand, that they'll have to come back and start this process all over again. We have no intention of allowing any vehicles on this property that are not in operable condition. I'm not exactly sure what Caroline's definition of inoperable vehicle is, but I think the intent here is that we're not going to park cars on this lot that can't be sold and driven off the lot. And that means that they have to be inspected, they have to have a current inspection sticker on them, and obviously they have to run. We're not going to have vehicles on this property that don't run. Also want you to understand that this is not a repair or a mechanic shop. We're not doing any repairs or any mechanical work on the cars except for what would be considered detailing, maybe replacing some wiper blades, putting a new headlight in the car if it's burned out, doing some washing and cleaning and waxing of the cars, things of that nature. That is the extent of the type of work that will be done. One of the things indicated here, any containers of new or used fluids or parts will be kept inside. We certainly will do that. At most, we would be topping off fluids. We're not going to be doing oil changes or major overhauls of systems on these cars, but we will abide by that. The one, number 6, where it says no land disturbance shall be permitted except to the extent necessary to install drain fields or wells for use on the property. As we have said in the past, we have an intention of repairing the existing building, but if it is impossible to make use of that existing building, if the condition is such that it needs to be torn down and a new building is to be put up, our intention is not to put up a new building that is significantly larger in footprint than the existing building. In other words, we'll build back what was there. But in order to do that, we recognize that we may have to put in a septic field and a well to serve that building in order for it to have a commercial purpose. And so that's our request there, is that we would be able to make the necessary land disturbance to do those things. My clients have painted a line and put some cones out right now to show where the boundary line is between Spotsylvania and Caroline County. Our intention as we go along would be to put some posts up so that anyone looking can eyeball it and see where the line is and be able to tell which side is Spotsylvania and which side is Caroline. And we will comply with that. So basically, we agree to all these. The only comment I would make is to clarify that if we have to build a new building, we need the ability to clear and grade as necessary to put in a new foundation or a new structure. So that may require some clearing, but it would be to a minimum. So if you all have any questions for me, I'm glad to answer them.
All right, let me see if there's anyone else who would like to speak. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak on special exception 10-2019? Is there anyone else who'd like to speak regarding the special exception? Hearing none. I'll close the public hearing. How would board have questions? Ms. Long?
I have one, Mr. Fincham, on the building. You know, I know what the building looks like, and I'm not surprised that they may have to do renovations. How are we gonna address this in the green spacing and the no disturbance? Would that be a separate building permit with approval?
If you want to clarify condition number 6, you could add, or allow the and/or allow the reconstruction of the, existing building at its current location. And I think
Okay,
that would
its
allow
current
them to
footprint type
reconstruct
of thing.
within that area.
Yeah, just so we don't wake up and find a huge building
Mhm.
someplace. Okay.
And Mr. Fincham and members of the board, I might add to that number 6, just to clarify that that would be obviously subject to the standard approval process for any construction. So they would have to get a building permit and to go through the normal process with the planning department if they were to undertake construction. But what's being done here is to make sure that the condition recorded with this doesn't conflict with their ability to pursue that normal authorization process for construction.
That's my only concern. Other than that, gentlemen, I think this applicant has done their best to make us happy and on a very weird situation. And I would go ahead and move to approve this special exception.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a proper second that we approve.
Wait a minute. With the added condition.
As amended.
As amended.
You amend yours?
Sorry.
There is a motion and a second that we adopt special exception 10-29 as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Judy.
Thank you, Ms. Judy. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no other, I would like to make a motion to recess until 12 April at 5 p.m. Excuse me? Oh, okay.
Mr. Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am working with VDOT and I believe Mr. Shebel about some signs we had on Omaha Drive, which is between Belmont and Arby. And they're trying to work through that, and I hope the board will allow staff to take care of those. It may be a small cost, and I'll bring it back if it's, just a few signs. So if that's no problem, I'll ask them to go ahead.
I don't see any issue.
It's no parking sign on the other side. There's a safety concern with the trucks parking where the sidewalks are on the other side of the street from Arby. And in order for people to walk there and feel safe, and we're going to make that a no parking area because it's a bad sight line anyhow for traffic. So I'm speaking to VDOT now to see how much it's going to cost, but I don't think it'll be a big deal.
VDOT willing to let those go up?
VDOT said they would put them up. They're sketching it now. And Mr. Shebel has replaced a couple of signs in that neighborhood that have been run over already. So that's another thing we have. So that's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Black?
Mr. Colley, I just got a quick question for you. Last night, and Mr. Seeley was here for this too. Last night at the George Washington Regional Commission, money is flowing down from the feds on this 5307 money. Right now, it's for transportation purposes, so it has to be tied to transportation. And right now,
Sign
Stafford,
money.
Stafford, Spotsylvania, and Fredericksburg all have projects that they are putting in for tied to transportation. Now, King George and Caroline, obviously, we don't. Fredericksburg's actually asking for a lot of money to be spent on Fred, and I think Stafford and Spotsylvania are balking at that. But we need a project. Staff has been directed by the GWRC, it's time sensitive, by a week from Friday. Is that correct?
But we have to also, the caveat is we have to match it, is my understanding.
Right.
So, I mean, when you start talking about this, I don't know how that's gonna fit into the budget process at this point.
Yeah, we just had to write our check for the VDOT match. Was it 2.4 million?
And we're gonna have to write a check for the broadband that we just,
612.
Can you look into that though? Can you definitely look into see if there's steps?
So, that's a,
A sidewalk project from Campbell's Creek to the food
no,
line.
we can't.
Yeah.
Micro size for our budget at this point.
It has to be tied to transportation.
Sidewalks.
Sidewalks are usually part of
sidewalks
it.
do fit for
Do
transportation.
we have to
but-
know all the numbers?
So,
Week
Mr.
from
Cully,
Friday.
is the date for this
I sent it to you,
information
Mr.
next
Fenton, didn't I?
Friday?
Next Friday.
I don't think, that's not very much time.
Yeah, we don't even meet again, so I mean, we're
Yeah,
gonna
we
put
don't
in a
meet again
project y'all
until-
don't know about.
Can you double check with them and see if we can extend it till after our next board meeting?
I will gladly do that.
Because I think I just don't want to leave if there's money that's available to us to do some sort of project that we don't have to do a huge match for. And I agree with you, like as far as the match concerned. But if there's a way for us to get, because right now it's three entities fighting over for money, and King George and Caroline are left out. And they always seem to leave
well,
out.
but we're left out because of the type of money it is. There's urban money and then there's
There's
suburban
other,
money.
but we qualify for certain things. with
Right,
that,
I listened to the presentation, we do qualify, and nobody was able to, I never really heard how much of the match was either, he never really said.
Right.
So I don't know if it's 1/3, 2/3, or what the deal is, I couldn't hear when the timeline was.
So, Mr. Cully, can you do this for us? Can you determine if we can extend the timeline from next Friday? Can you also determine the amount of match, if there is match to and specifics on the project? You could bring that back to us. You could bring that to us at the next board meeting if there's time. If not, then
No, I know.
And we'll send out whatever information we get.
thank you, sir.
No problem.
Any other board comments? Mr.
Hearing none, I will
Mr.
make a
Ford,
motion.
wait, Mr. Ford.
I just wanted to thank the board for the transfer of funds. The Caroline Woodland page has about 850 followers and is getting an increased amount of usage. And I think by expanding it, basically increasing it by over 100%, it'll make more of a name for itself. It's a fairly low maintenance, low cost amenity for the community that's being used again more every year. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forehand. Any other board comments? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we recess until the 12th of April at 5 o'clock, and it will be in the EOC, I take it is where we'll end up. That's my motion.
Second.
Been proper motion and second that we recess till April 12th at 5 o'clock in the EOC room for a budget work session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We are recessed.